Good evening. Sorry this video is late, but here it is. Today we'll be discussing the aspects and process of a missionary or someone working cross-culturally and how they, as they go into other cultures, how they should meld with the culture, what aspects they should take on and what aspects of their own culture that they should keep, and how the mixing of two cultures works. So the first thing that should be on every missionary's or every person going into a cross-cultural circumstance is to always be in a mindset of humility and being in a state of constant learning. This is a lifelong process. No matter how much you know about one country, there are so many different subcultures, people groups, and experiences that you can never stereotype or lump one people group into one mindset or five mindsets. Each person is unique in their experience in their own country and in their view of the world. Now, going back to the Bible, my favorite biblical example of sharing the gospel cross-culturally is in Acts chapter 7, where Paul speaks of the unknown God to the council of Areopagus. He respects and appeals to their religious devotion, and he intentionally spoke to their culture and passion of being devout. He also incorporated the fact that he knew that they loved knowledge. With all this information in hand, Paul perfectly emphasized the areas of the gospel in a way that would touch their hearts and would be easier for them to understand. Now, in general preparations for interacting cross-culturally, there needs to be some basic research that needs to be done before entering. Some basic research that can be done is researching the customs of the area, or each thing that needs to be researched is, one is to be research of your specific area, and the others is research of the general country and culture itself. So it's very helpful to know the basic customs, expectations, and social circumstances. So how they socialize with family, friends, strangers, men with women, women with men, and also some simple facts that someone could be aware of in another country is their the meanings behind their flag, cultures between rich and poor, between different tribes, common religions and customs, politics. I heard about researching flags from Mrs. Professor Johnson. She, I believe, when she went to Tibet, she was researching the culture, and it popped into her mind to research the flag. And that was obviously God telling her to do that. And she found the two colors, or the two shapes in the flag, really represented their religious standings. And their religious standings was a deep stronghold that Satan has in their culture, and it's something for her that she needed to be aware of for spiritual warfare as she went. That is vital for a missionary to be successful. And further things to prepare before you go into a cross-cultural setting, especially long-term as a missionary. The new missionary must seek conversations with those who have experiences in those areas, in those cultures, or matters to what resources they have. Read books, but also speak to someone in person who is from there. So part of understanding the different tribes and how they are differ from each other. When I was in Southeast Asia, it was very hard for me to not lump uh, the people of the country into one whole, because they themselves lump themselves into one whole. We said, oh, we were visiting some friends, and we asked them, oh, what's your schedule? We don't want to bother you too much. What time of day do you shower? And they say, we, as in the people, the national whole, we shower at night. We thought that was kind of odd, because as Americans, we would never say that. We say, I don't know what they do, but I shower at night. And that was something to remember. However, when I was interviewing a local friend, she was from a village on the shore, and everyone there was a Christian. You would never think that in their culture, with how hostile they are to the faith. And also, this is something very minor, but a custom in her town, in the country at large, is women who get married wear red dresses. And I was like, oh, so what do you wear for the wedding? And she's like, oh, more modern people wear, the white dresses, because you usually do the red dress and the white dress. But she's like, but our people, we don't do the red dress. We do red pants. And it has something to do with their sect of Christianity and their traditions they have created. And I thought that was absolutely fantastic. Now, there's also another major thing is in this country is that most of the outside world thinks they're very shy, non-controversial, trying to keep relationship, keep face. But that's how they are in the South. If you go to the North, they are in your face, 3 inches away from your face, and yelling at the top of their lungs, and they speak your mind, and they seem very rude. But that is just a different experience. It is different from every single culture, and it's quite amazing, even each culture within the country. And in my research, I found a researcher, someone who wrote a book named Duane Elmer, and he stated a missionary needs to learn to read between the lines and be sensitive to innuendos. Maintain a gracious, calm, courteous, patient, and listening attitude. Develop close ties to at least one national friend who can help build ties and translate. And looking at this, these are the foundational stepping stones of building a successful cross-cultural relationship. Through the readings from Stephen and Douglas, they stated a missionary must never try to go overboard in embracing another culture and must never do this by abandoning their own culture, because they will never live up to the expectations and fit into this new culture that they are trying to embrace. Instead, they need to find the middle ground of blending the cultures together, respecting both cultures, keeping what is good and gutting what is wrong in one's own culture and the other culture. Now, situations in the past where almost abandoning one's own culture actually worked was in the situation of Hudson Taylor and Mary Slessor. Now, in those days, when people were sent off to be missionaries, the expectations they would never come back. They would die there. Hudson Taylor found that in his missionary preaching that people were just excited to see a foreigner, and he got really frustrated with that because they were not focusing on the gospel. They were just excited to see a foreigner. So he dyed his hair, changed his look, wore the pigtail, and so that when he preached the gospel in Mandarin, they were listening to the words and to the truth rather than being distracted by some new friendly face. And in the situation of Mary Slessor, she needed to save money, so she ate like the locals, she lived like the locals because she was sending money to her family, who are still barely making it back in Scotland. And she only kept her tea time, and she still wore the British clothing. However, she embraced their culture, their way of living, and in that way, that opened their hearts to the gospel because she didn't live above them the English way. She was with them, and she was in the dirt with them and drudged with them, and saved their precious children and showed them how their children that they were abandoning were meant so much more because they are made in the image of God. So there is that balance. She kept the gospel. She didn't accept their religions. She kept the foundational truths and morals. She let go the fluffy surface level things that other people would be, the locals would be distracted by, and lived with them as one with them, as a sister. And she eventually earned the name as honorary mother of every single village she went to, and that was the witness of God in her life. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed these stories and information. God bless.